Good afternoon, everybody. On this beautiful Sunday, we're just walking through Longacre Park in Fairview Heights. It used to be Longacre Park, and then they changed the name of it. They have the Longacre Apartments and everything else over there, but it's a nice trail to walk on. It's over 1.5 miles long. And as we're walking through, I just wanted to talk about how you can retire with less than 1 million. Yes, less than 1 million in 2025 too. And I'm gonna keep this video kind of brief, but I did want to talk about how you can do this, because the reality is there are funds out there like JEPI, JEPQ, and other funds that can allow you to do something like this for relatively cheap. And when I say relatively cheap, what I mean is the relative yield of what you're getting for something like that in terms of, the potential dividends you can make are substantial relative to other types of funds. And what you'll often see is that these funds are going to be tailored towards your income-oriented investors. And if you want to get a yield of 10 to 12%, you can do so. And if you have a $500,000 portfolio and you're generating a 10% yield on an annualized basis, and these dividends are paid monthly, by the way, you're getting a monthly dividend on top of that, then you can really look at this from the perspective of, well, if I was to do this, you can make 50 grand a year with a $500,000 portfolio. So that's what you have to keep in mind when you're looking at something like this, because $1 million plus could probably get you 100 grand. And that income is going to be just one of those things where you're getting that monthly paycheck. And that's kind of the goal for everybody, I think, in retirement. So we often hear about, even with higher interest rates, how with inflation and everything, the yields you can get on a savings account are a lot lower than, typical, even over the long term. Like when I'm talking 30 years, I'm not talking even since the 2008 financial crisis, but you go back to the 90s and you could get, higher rates, I'm pretty sure, because, the banks these days are wanting to pay you like 0.5% interest. So sitting into a CD or a bank is devastating. Bonds are not much better. Gold is good. Real estate's good. The reason is because the utility for real estate, you can talk about AI all you want. People are going to need a place to live. These apartments right here used to go for under $1,000. I guarantee they're probably approaching $2,000 a month now. And that's just due to all the influx of people coming to the Midwest for, certain jobs and whatnot. But I have to say, the entire mindset of, just invest in like, municipal bonds and all that, I'm not a big fan of that. Gold, real estate, and ultimately, I think funds like JEPI, JEPQ, and gold is for your actual savings to try to, maintain some level of purchasing power. That's what gold and silver can be good for, over the long term. But you can hold cash too. I mean, I'm just saying, you could also try to diversify with other currencies like, the Swiss franc or other types of currencies you believe might do better than, let's say, the US dollar, because the US dollar has seen a lot of inflation over the last 5 years. There's no doubt about that. But if you're looking at how you can participate, from a fund like JEPI or JEPQ, just as an example, there's a lot more. You have DIVO, DIVO. We've discussed that one on the channel before. You also have some of the other, legacy ones. I think there's some lower yield ones. If you're looking for dividend growth, you have Noble, NOBL. That's the Dividend Aristocrats one. B as in boy, N as in Nancy, NOBL for Noble. I don't even know if that one still exists actually, but that was more of a dividend growth one. And one thing you'll notice also with these ETFs is that you're going to have to choose between dividend growth and whether or not you want to sacrifice that for high yields, let's say, over the utility of the investment for 10 or 20 years. That's kind of how you have to look at it. It's like an annuity, because you're going to be getting those monthly distributions. And, the share price of JEPI and JEPQ, look at it over the long term, see where it's held up. There is inflation, keep in mind. So your principal may not hold up as well as like a growth-oriented investment. But nonetheless, you're going to be looking at, in my personal opinion, you'll be looking at a better return in terms of your immediate income needs. So if you're looking at something like where you need immediate income, you can look at funds like JEPI, JEPQ, and DIVO, for example, and you can use those for those monthly distributions and getting that high income. So if you take a hypothetical portfolio in that situation of $500,000, and you're able to generate a yield on that, like I said, of 10%, you're going to be getting $50,000. What's your expenses like at that point? And so that's when you have to start asking questions. Is the house paid off? What kind of debt are you carrying? Do you have a second home? Are you able to generate rental income from a home you're not utilizing if you have a second home? Getting a second mortgage, they say, well, don't over leverage yourself, but at the same time, if you could use it for rental income, I think it might be a smart move. Now in retirement, hopefully most of that debt's paid off. Hopefully you've done that when you're younger and you've taken the risk, and then you can have a couple homes maybe in retirement where you can generate one as income while you're sitting back in the other one collecting maybe Social Security, depending on what age you are. But if you're taking an early retirement and you're looking at a portfolio that you've built up, maybe you don't want to immediately stop working completely, but you want to work on some projects and you want to take a break from work or take a leave of absence or whatever it is, could these funds be utilized? And I think the answer is absolutely. It just depends on how much you have to work with. And that's ultimately the question. If you have a good amount to work with, then you're going to be able to generate some pretty good returns. And that's when it comes down to, hey, $1 million portfolio could generate over 6 figures. And, maybe that's what everybody needs these days to retire comfortably. It seems like that's something to consider, because with the way the inflation rate's been over the last 5 years, is 100,000 the new gold standard? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. If you can generate $100,000 a year on $1 million portfolio, would that still be enough to retire? Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I'm curious what you think. But I think it's an interesting conversation, and I think it's one we need to have, because everybody's looking for a solution, and nobody wants to sit there and get a 2 or 3% yield on a municipal bond or a treasury bond or something if they can generate yield against their ETFs and their portfolios, and they can maybe do covered calls against individual stocks. If you own individual stocks like Procter & Gamble, they just did layoffs. Maybe they're going to save in their labor costs now. I hate to say it, but people got laid off, and that's a big expense. They're going to save a lot of money. So the question you have to ask yourself is, where are you trying to benefit in terms of cash flow? Are you collecting dividends and also trying to get, covered calls and all that kind of stuff? So, and of course, the size of your portfolio will have something to do with it, and whether or not this might actually work in retirement. Because at the end of the day, you only have what you have to work with. So if you have a $100,000 portfolio, you can still make this work, but maybe you're going to have to find alternative income sources as well. You can maybe generate $1,000 or $2,000 a month or $3,000 a month with a $100,000 portfolio with the options and dividends. But where's the rest of your money going to come from? Are you going to live on $1,000 to $2,000 a month? What are you looking at? And anyway, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. I think this is an interesting conversation, but let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. We're here at Longacre Park. I've walked nearly 2 miles, and I walked another 3 miles earlier, so we're getting our cardio in. I'm off work the next couple days, so we're just enjoying the sunshine here in Fairview Heights and trying to get out and about. So hope you all are having a great day out there. God bless you all. It's a beautiful Sunday. If it's nice in your area, try to get outside and enjoy the weather. And with that being said, take care, everybody, and we'll see you in the next one.